my brothers, my sisters, my friends, the great gift of your applause is not for me. No, this is for yourself. You came today because of craving and a knowledge that the old ways serve us no longer. You came today because you crave for something new, something different. It is said that I hate customizations, personalizations, the known standards. I do not hate them. I do not. For I do not fight out of hatred. I say customizations are not lesser but other, not worthless, but of other value, not disposable, but of a different disposition. What a world we can make full of humanity, we who live for freedom, for truth, and for love. Together with Microsoft Azure and Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Ermakov, and I work for our IT company in Russia. We are a Microsoft partner who implement Microsoft ERP solutions, and we mainly specialize on international rollouts from Europe and the United States to Russia, so we deal quite a lot with legislation and localization features. I work as a partner and Dynamics 365 business strategist, and this is Andrey. Andrey is our solution architect for Dynamics 365, and he will be the guy responsible for all the live demos that we would see today. So if something would not work, he is to blame.
Hope demo gods be with me.
So let me start with a short theoretical introduction before we go to the set of crazy demos we prepared for you. You know, we are living in a world of change, and everything changes quite quickly around you. And the further we live, the quicker the change. So in order to follow the modern trends, you also have to change. I prepared one picture. This is my native city. This is St. Petersburg in Russia, 1986, so it's almost 30 years ago. And those days, you see, we already almost ran out of space on the fence to communicate with people. And we didn't have internet those days. Now we have internet, and you can imagine how dense is the flow of the information around you. So as Mahatma Gandhi told, you must be the change yourself if you wish to see this change in the world. So throughout all the presentation, I would force you to change. And today's product message, today's message of Dynamics 365 Business Central is exactly like this. So the first topic is the implementation costs nowadays are not that important, and they are much less important than having a flexible system. This means that the customer is not anymore care how much it would cost to implement the system, but how much it would cost to support the system. Customers are changing, markets are changing, users are changing, everything changes. So you are not anymore able to live with a fixed system. The system that you operate with needs to constantly follow those changes. So if your customers would implement the flexible system, it would allow them to be more competitive on the market. And this is exactly about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So this is the last ERP to implement. Imagine in the previous days when you did an implementation, after 5-6 years of using the system and making a lot of customizations, you find yourself in a situation that you need to upgrade to a newer version. And this could be either upgrade, or in many cases, it is actually a re-implementation. So the customers, when they select a new system, they think that every 5-6 years, they would need to have a budget to upgrade to a newer system. So this is not anymore the case. The case is that when you implement Dynamics 365 Business Central and customize it the way that Microsoft suggests using extensions, it would be the last ERP that you would implement because you would constantly have the most up-to-date system. And this is, again, a mind-changing concept. But this is not just an ERP. This is a part of Microsoft Azure services. So the next thing that I want you to learn is that before you do the customization, first think if there is already an Azure service that can satisfy this business requirement instead of customizing the system. So at any moment, you can jump out from ERP system and use the available Azure service, and then jump in with the result. So this is actually a new concept of how we can avoid customizations in the system by saving a lot of efforts, a lot of money, and without changing the standard system. So avoid customizations by using Azure services. I have a nice slide. This is September 2018 information. The nuclear research shows that Dynamics 365 Business Central is here. So it's moving rapidly from the facilitator to the leader part. And you can also see Microsoft Dynamics 365 for finance operations, which is here in the leaders already. So Microsoft is certainly knowing what is going on the market and what is happening. And with this kind of approach, the product gets better and better. So what makes this product so great? So we have a functional legacy of 30+ years. So it's, on the one hand, this is an old system. On the other hand, it is already in the cloud and on premises simultaneously. Licensing part allows you to have this either software as a service or on a subscription base or on a perpetual purchase. So this is the same ERP which is offered with a variety of different options. A lot of web services and APIs are available, add-on apps, and app source. And this is the next message of today's presentation. If you really want to do a customization, think about the value of the customization and think whether you can offer this not only to yourself or to a specific customer, but to the whole market. This means that you can take your customization and convert it into an app and put it into the app source and get money for that. So once you are thinking that this customization is interesting for the market, from the very beginning you should start to develop it the way that it could be published in the app source. How many have you actually tried to publish anything on the app source? Anybody? Not that many. So I force you and inspire you to try, because you are doing very good customizations usually, very interesting things, and market perhaps would be interested. This system also is offered on Docker and in Azure containers with a frequent pre-builds which you can follow. So there is not any other ERP system in the world that has all those qualities that I have mentioned. We have extensions. We have AI in Visual Studio, so everything is moving towards having the code there. And community. Of course, the community. So this is you. We have 3 independent, biggest conferences in the world. The user group, the directions, and NAV TechDays. There is no any other ERP that has that many third-party conferences in the world. So I'm very proud of us. Last but not least, it is a part of Azure infrastructure. This means that you can actually empower your standard functionality without the customizations using the Azure services. And this is what we will talk today about. So if you would put in the Google Azure services, you would actually see quite many services that Microsoft offers at the moment. it's more than 100, and the quantity increases. So Microsoft constantly develops new services that you can offer to your customers. It's not always easy to use them. And here I have a different slide, because it sometimes looks good, but in the background, it might not be that easy actually to use. But this is inevitable. I mean, if the vendor is working with the cutting-edge technologies and invents the technologies, it is inevitable that something sometimes is not working, or it's not working the way as we think it should work. Sometimes documentation is missing, but actually Microsoft is doing a very good job within the last 2-3 years in order to enhance the quality of the services they provide and the quality of documentation they provide. So I also feel myself sometimes not that good while trying to set up some demos of the new things, but that's the way how it works. I mean, you cannot do anything with that. You just need to live with that. Have you heard about, for example, the sketch-to-code service in the Azure? This is a service that allows you to make a drawing. So you take a piece of paper and you draw the contents of your website with all the fields and naming of the fields. And then you take a picture of this paper and upload this to the Azure service, and the Azure service, using the artificial intelligence, returns you the ready page of your website with the code behind that. It's like, wow. And it looks like that. So you just sign it, upload, and it shows you the website. And there are a lot of similar services that awaits you to try. So one of them is Microsoft Flow. I think you are using Microsoft Flow already quite a lot, right? Who is using Microsoft Flow? I was expecting more. Okay, if we talk about the business scenarios, one of our customers had asked us whether we can somehow set up the system the way it would learn what the market thinks about the products of our customer. So he has a list of items in the ERP system, and he wants that market should somehow value the products. What we did, we integrated the ERP using a flow with Twitter, and every time when a new tweet was published with the product name, we took the text of that Twitter and then put it to a machine learning to verify whether the text has a negative or positive connotation. And then with the result, we return back to the ERP and write the result into the item card. So after 3-4 months of operations, the customer has a list of items with the understanding what market thinks about his items. And it didn't cost basically anything to develop because we were not programming the system. We were just on a user level. We were connecting the boxes of different applications using Flow. And the usage of this service is also very inexpensive. So there are hundreds of different business scenarios that you can think about that you can actually realize without customizing the system, but using Microsoft Flow and other systems around Business Central. Power Apps. Have you heard about Power Apps? Good, more hands. I see. A lot of business scenarios you can use as well. For example, one of our customers was providing a service of a call center. And they told, okay, we have 200 people in the call center, and they are doing just one function. They are just filling in one document after talking to the phone. Should I buy 200 licenses? Well, we told yes. Basically, they need to access the system. You need 200 licenses. Okay, is there any other option, the customer said? Well, there is, in theory, an option to create a web application that would bypass the application server and put the data directly into the database, and this would not require technically any license. But this is a multiplexing, so it's not a good option. But this is what many of us were doing in the past. So Microsoft was thinking that it should be changed also. And Microsoft is giving the tools that allow you to access the data in your database on a much cheaper option than buying actually a license. So Power Apps is a very powerful tool to give your employees an access to the database and integrate with a variety of business scenarios. So they can see, for example, the quantity of items in stock. They can see extra data that they need when they travel to their customers. And this would not actually require a separate licensing as such of the Business Central. There is also Outlook, and this is quite, I think, already commonly known thing. With the concept of unified workspace, we have an option to use Outlook that is integrated seamlessly with the Business Central. So you can actually create sales quotes and sales invoices and sales orders directly from the Outlook email without switching to the ERP system. And this switching to the ERP system is less and less needed. And there are interesting business scenarios that you can implement when your customer might actually write you, what is happening with my sales order number, something. And when you open the email, the system would convert this number into a link. So you don't need anymore to copy this sales invoice number, go to the ERP system, open the sales invoice list, find this number, open. You just click a link and the sales order appears. And there are a lot more other scenarios, like you can send the PDF purchase invoice into the OCR, automatic recognition system, and automatically create the unposted purchase invoice directly in the system without leaving the Outlook, and so on. So we can actually see all the financial information connected with the contact that you are writing to, his sales invoices, overdue invoices, and so on. So this is also part of the infrastructure that Microsoft offers. Azure Service Bus, this is, to my mind, the follower of the Beanstalk, which would soon have all the features that Beanstalk offers. I don't know when it would happen, but I personally feel that this is actually a substitution of Beanstalk, which would allow you to integrate a variety of different things between each other with an event queuing system and also the transformation. Azure Data Lake allows you to store a variety of huge data into the data silos and operate with a variety of machine learning and analytics and create different dashboards and visualizations. And, of course, Power BI. Now, Power BI, I think everybody now is using to some extent, right? Because the Power BI is a tool that allows you to avoid building the reports, either in SQL or whatever other reports. So the developer is not anymore needed to create a report. The report can be created on a user level. It's not actually even a power user. It's just a user who is capable to operate with an Excel-looking interface of Power BI. But even more, we have the concept of Power BI Dataflows and Common Data Service. I stole this slide. This is not mine. But I don't know who is it, so I cannot make a reference. But that's a good one. Actually shows you where the Business Central also would go. Means that you would have a common data service that would allow the applications to have the same database schema. So in the previous days, you would need to integrate your CRM system with an NAV system. An NAV guy, for that purpose, needs to create a connector which would replicate the data between CRM and NAV, but in this case, he needs to know the database schema of CRM system. So he needs to know where exactly is the customer table, or where exactly is the item table, and so on. So this is not anymore needed, and the idea is that all the applications would have the same database schema. Moreover, Microsoft says that there would be no need of integration itself, because the data would be stored in one place. So there would be just one place for the data, and all the other applications would use this data from different sources. And once the common data model is implemented using the Azure Data Lake, there is already a predefined connector in the Power BI. It's called, in the online services part, it's called Common Data Service for Apps. It's in a beta release so far, but I think it would be soon already functioning. So it allows you to establish a connection to a common data model the way that you would automatically have all the tables in a correct relation with each other inside Power BI with a predefined reports. So once you have the common data model implemented, you would have the possibility to access a variety of predefined reports that already exist. I think it's time to do some demos. Otherwise, you would get bored. We have several interesting demonstrations to show you. We would start with the creation of serverless Azure container. Who was using Azure containers? Not so many, actually quite few. So Azure allows you to have a pre-configured environment for scalable deployment and management of containerized workloads. So basically, it allows you to have the application which is running into the serverless environment. And we can actually create already now fully serverless Business Central in the Azure Container Service. So shortly, what you need to do is to open the Azure portal and create a new resource group. And we are not demoing this particular part because actually it takes around 20 minutes to execute. So if you would open the Cloud Shell and execute this command and wait for about 20 minutes, the status of creation would change from creating to running, and then you would need to execute one more command. And if this is successful, you can open in the browser a link with the access to the database that is deployed. So basically, in some half an hour, you are able to deploy a Business Central in the Azure container and operate with that efficiently. And inside our demo that we would show you, we would use this kind of Azure container deployed.
So let's look how it looks. Here is Microsoft Azure dashboard, and this is the mark of command line interface. It's Cloud Shell. Yes, Cloud Shell is running. You can use PowerShell or Bash. For our purpose, we use PowerShell. And here is the only command which will create for me my new container hosted in Azure. AZ container create, it's a command. Name, it's a name of container. Image, it's official Microsoft image for Business Central Sandbox. No usernames, no passwords. Resource group, you should have it already created. Operation system Windows, 2 CPUs, 3 gigabytes of memory. And this is important part, environment and environment variables, which we have to use there. It's accepting of end user license agreement. Use SSL, it's you can use it or not. I'm not use it for this demo. And this is license file. You can work with demo license, but for some demos, I need to have development license inside the container. So here I need to set link for, URL to my license, which I need to use. Public IP address and opened ports. I need these ports to communicate with container. So if I run this command, it will take about 20 minutes to spin up container. And after that, I can run this command, az container logs, my resource group, and my container name. This command shows me all the information about the container. So it's web client URL. I need, instead of this strange value, you need to use IP address of container. I will show you later where to take it. It's not these values. And it's my admin username and admin password. Also, inside the container, I can take basics file to start development in Visual Studio Code. How it looks inside the Azure. I opened my resource groups, my resource group for containers, and I have 3 containers instances here. If I open it, I will find here IP address of container. I just need to copy it, paste, /NAV always.
So far.
Yep. I already inputted my username and password, and this way I have Business Central somewhere in the cloud.
Okay, so the purpose of these demos is actually to show you the capabilities of the system, the endless capability of the system. So we would have a couple of scenarios. The first scenario, we would select the files, any files, using the interface of Dynamics 365, and then we would store it in the Azure Blob Storage. This allows us to store our data in the cloud, and then we can get a reference link to the stored file and refer it back to the Business Central so we can actually operate it somewhere else and allow users, for example, to open them. Within the second scenario, we will enter the item ID in Dynamics 365 Business Central. We will enter the link to the image, and then you would see that this image would be uploaded directly to the item card using the same services that we talked today.
So let's see. This is how it looks finally. It's upload demo, it's my extension, which I need. And here is 2 tabs, upload file, process, upload file to Azure. I choose file. That's it. I've got a link into the Azure for my file. I open it. It says release candidates Docker images. To edit. How to organize this demo? First of all, you need to create storage account. I have 5 of them. One. Inside the storage account, we have blobs service. And here you can create a new container for your blobs. Here you set access to your container. For this demo, I used anonymous read access to avoid authorization. This way, you can read any blobs from this container, but you cannot upload files to this container with anonymous access. You need a special key. To get a special key, we open our blobs container, access policy, or not. Here is the point shared access signature. We choose sign-in key and generate shared access signature. To upload files, we need this one, signature access, shared access signature token. It's quite big, but with this key, it needed to upload file into the blob container. Let's see. Here is my extension for how it works. This is an action which uploaded file into the Azure. It just call the Azure Management Code Unit which I created. Inside the code unit, we have two functions. One function is for file uploading. It's a dialog which you saw in the beginning to get the stream of file. And this stream I pass into the send file to Azure function with the file name. And here we have HTTP client, which will send our stream into the blob container. Mandatory headers is XMS blob type. And here is URL of my future blob. It's URL of my container. You can access it. See. Yeah. URL of container, which I use. Here I add my file name, and this is shared access signature. To upload file, you need to use put method. So I just get my stream into content. I get an URL of my future file, and in response message, I just check is it was successful. So this way we will get how to say, fully serverless architecture. We have a Business Central instance inside the cloud without a virtual machine. And also we can upload and download files from it without using of some server.
Yes, and without actually storing them inside the database.
And also we can read file from Azure, this file. Yeah. The reading of file, I pass the file name, just making get method, and inside the response method, I will get the content of my file as a text, and I show it with a message.
So you can actually organize the fully serverless environment to operate with both Business Central and your data storage of your extra files.
How you can use it? For example, you have a customer or some third party which use FTP server or something like that to exchange files, and now you can replace the FTP server with Azure Blob Storage and read files from there. Next. And the next demo is also how to, for example, upload pictures into the item without using the hard disk. Here I need to create item. Okay. Okay.
This is NAV TechDays item.
Yeah. I use it. And for example, it will be chair. I copy this URL. I put it there. And I press upload picture from URL.
We were thinking actually to use, as usual, the Marco Perisic photo for this kind of demos, but unfortunately he left. So we prefer to wait for his other manager who would replace him, and then perhaps this would be his fun.
This is my entity items, and I have a chair picture on it.
So this means that you might not necessarily use your local hard drive space. You just can upload the data and, for example, the image directly from a web into the serverless Business Central.
If you have a web catalog of your items, you can easily take these pictures from it inside your Business Central for your items. How to do it? The only function is upload item picture. I pass here item code and picture URL, which I set up in the beginning of this demo. And here I also use HTTP client and get method. So I just get picture from URL into response. After that, I read response into the in-stream. I get my item from item code. Remove. Oh no, it's not working. You can comment this. And after that, picture is a media set field, which has an import stream function. And you just import stream, which you get from client, into the picture and modify item. That's all. So.
Good. Let's get to the next fantastic beast of our presentation. We would like to show the Azure functions and integration with the Azure functions through a HTTPS client. I think you know what the Azure function is, right? You actually, for those who is not aware of what it allows you to have, again, a serverless deployment of your third-party application. So let's say you want to have a .NET functionality, which you would not use inside the Business Central, but you can still create the Azure function and put the .NET application there and call this application directly from the Business Central, and then use the response as if it would be customizations inside the system. So the scenario for the Azure functions is this. We will just fill some data in Dynamics 365 Business Central, and we'll pass it to encrypting service, which would use SHA 256 encryption method. And we created this as an Azure function. And it would return the encrypted text back to Dynamics 365 Business Central. So for example, this could be used to encrypt and store the data inside the system if you would have some personal data protection issues or some need of encryption of data from those users who access the system. And in order to create this inside the Business Central, it would be quite a customization inside, which we can actually substitute with this kind of scenario.
So the end result is it's my page where I have HMAK key for SHA-256 encryption. And I need to pass key, some phrase, and get encrypted result. This is a practically used demo. We use such integration to sign requests to some API, which need to be signed.
In banks.
Yeah. They give us some key, and they need to get a request signed with this key. So yeah, it's encrypted result. What's inside this? It's a page. We have here key, signature field, request text, and hash text. And I just have one action, send data to Azure function, which runs function get signature from my function management code unit. Inside the code unit, function get signature. I test setup that signature API and HMAK is field. And after that, I create URI from signature API, adding two parameters, text and key. And after that, I send request to Azure function with HTTP client. It's basic data type for all integrations. It's a replaced .NET client. And after that, yeah, I get a response from my URI and read this response as text. As you see in my function, it's based on Azure Web Sites Net. How to see it? Inside, on your dashboard, click Function Apps. I have here function app NTD 18. And here I have functions. Basically, it's two functions. This function is for my demo. How to create it? I click New Function. I choose HTTP trigger. I can't use spaces. Okay. Authorization level anonymous. Great. And this is a basic sample. It's like hello world. This HTTP requests shows you how to get data from parameters and from JSON request. And it tried to find name parameter inside your request, and it returns you hello name. So if I save it, that I run it, so this functions already contains two methods, get and post. So I just show you post. It's an example of HTTP request. And if I send it, I get hello Azure. How to manage with it? This is a log part. This is a string which tries to find parameter for using get method. And this is part which parse JSON file. So if you don't want to use JSON files, just using get method, I can show you in them. The Postman, it's URL of my Azure functions, this one, and this is two parameters which I used, text and some key, and I use get method. I send it, I get the result. So if I want to test this function, I will get function URL, copy, create here, hello entity, how it works. If I want to use post method, I need to create body.
Now we're doing live coding.
Yeah. Also hello entity. What I've done. Okay. I create a new function, which I named SHA-256, and this is a code. I'm searching two parameters. In the parameter string, it's text and key. You can see it here. Parameter, text parameter and key parameter. I'm trying to search their values. And after that, I'm create encoding, getting bytes, and create an encryption of my bytes with a key, and I compute hash in the end. After that, I remove this sign and pass the result. All that function done. Firstly, I've implemented this function with an old coding. It works successfully, but for extension, I don't want to use standard objects, and it's impossible to do without .NET. So I placed all the .NET into the Azure function, and it works there. So I just pass there two text variables and get one text variable back, and it works perfectly.
Yes, so this means that you are practically able to create any function using basically any language, and then put it as an Azure function, and then call this from the Business Central and get the result without customizing the Business Central itself. And this is quite a powerful tool to extend the functionality of Business Central. Another demo that we would focus on today is the sample integration with the Microsoft bot framework. Have you heard about bots? How many of you face the situation that your customers are asking stupid questions at the same time, on and on? I guess many of you, and then the first line of support is basically suffering of those questions. So what we did for a couple of our customers, we actually implemented the integration of the ERP system with the Q&A bot, which is a standard service in Microsoft. And we allow users to ask questions from the system directly in the system. So what Q&A does is, this is a bot service which you can run in the Azure, and it would accept the questions and in a smart way analyze those and offer the answers with a certain probability of matching. And you can set up your own answers to the questions. So basically, it's quite a simple service, and it's quite simply can be used and integrated. So, Andrey, can you demonstrate us how it works?
So it works next way. I have extension which named Q&A bot. And here I can ask something from bot and get an answer.
You can start with hello.
Yeah, first time always a little bit slow.
Okay, our Azure machine is running out of money, so we have to be tight.
Yeah, hello.
Are you a bot? I've heard of other bots, but I haven't met any. Okay, more interesting questions. How I can create item card? Now you see the bot is giving you a reference to Microsoft Docs, which you can actually use to access the documentation. So instead of putting the workload to the front line of support, the users can actually operate with your wiki or your knowledge library or Microsoft Docs.
Yeah.
And you can actually ask those questions in a different way. I mean, you might not actually ask the full questions. You can actually just type item card.
Or sales quote, or customer.
And then it would give you actually, again, the result. So you can, the bot is smart. I mean, he tries to take the logic out of your question. So you might not necessarily need to map the exact question with exact answer. So this is the value of that service. And it basically allows you to integrate the Q&A sessions inside your Business Central. A bit of machine learning is our next demo. We will actually have 3 more demos today.
I forgot to say a little bit how to do a bot.
Okay.
So
yes, that's important.
For this, it's a Microsoft bot service, Q&A maker.ae. Here you sign in with your account, and here you have your knowledge bases for your bot, and you can create a new knowledge base. I already created. This is my database. And here you can see all the questions, answers, pairs. This is my customized questions. If it will see in your question this full phrase or just customer card, it answers you with this link. Also, you can choose from free bots, from professional, like a professional speaker, like your friend or something like that. It depends how it will answer on basic questions like hello, good evening, or something like that. And demo databases is quite big. You can upload here from files your own questions, answers, and in the end, you will create a smart bot. In database, you have settings. This is important details. This is API, where you need to send your requests. And this is authorization key for this knowledge database. Also, you need to set content type as application JSON. Page makes next only one action. It sends question into the bot management code unit. And inside the bot management code unit, we have, here I create JSON object with a question and answer, with the questions from page. I add in here content type application JSON. Here I set authorization with endpoint key, and here I set that I want to accept also JSON from response. And this is my URL from knowledge base. And here I'm making post method, and I read response text from my response. Response text basically it's JSON. Here I'm parsing JSON object. I'm getting answers token, and just read answer from it. I'm trying to find answer token inside it, and I'm making exit with its text value. That's all. Short implementation.
Yes, and if you have, let's say, a ticketing system that is functioning for several years, you can actually upload the data stored in your ticketing system with the questions of the users directly into the Q&A bot service, so you would be able quickly to implement the bot who would be able to answer quite frequently asked questions of the users.
And what is very good that cost of using a bot is about some cents per month, some dollars.
It's very little. It's basically peanuts.
But it depends from search engine. Basic bot costs almost nothing.
Okay, the next one is a bit of machine learning. So what we want to do is to show you how to integrate Business Central with machine learning. There was a session done by Dmitry Katzin and Steven, the previous one, and they showed quite a lot of machine learning. Our would be much shorter. I will pass again this to Andrey. So what actually, regarding the scenarios, we want to create a new contact for the company. We want to extend the contact card properties and fill in those properties, upload a photo, and get the prediction from machine learning if the annual income of this person is more or less than 50,000 USD. So we will use the standard training model deployed in Azure Machine Learning Studio for this purpose. And you can see now that we spent very little time in order to get this up and running.
So this is Microsoft Azure Machine Learning Studio, and this is my experiments. I just want to create a new experiment. Here is the ready samples already. I need sample 5. Train, test, evaluate for binary classification. I choose it, open a studio. I added web service endpoints, and now I want to.
So we have now the machine learning as a service in Azure. And then
what this experiment done? Sorry, it have a database of about 3,000 of people from different countries, about their age, about their gender, where they work in, what is their education, and how much they get as an income.
No, yes.
So
how many hours they work per week, and
so
so
that
on.
Demo database for it looks this way. So it's an age, it's CSV file, work class, some other parameters, and so now we create predictive web service. It transforms our experiment. And after that, we run again. You can just pass some parameters about any person, and this model will predict how much his salary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether it would be at least more than 50,000 US dollars or less. And you can develop this model, of course, by your own to add more functionality inside.
I'm deploying web services again. And I'm getting API key and URL for posting, which I can use inside the Business Central. In the Business Central, I have only page extension. For contact lists, I get my contact record. And inside the Business Central, you have a special code unit, Azure ML connector, to communicate with Machine Learning Studio. You just initialize connection with API key and this API key and this URL. I paste it here. Here I pass columns, which are equal to columns from demo database. A lot of columns, and here I send them to Azure and get a prediction, % of prediction, and my result. Just a second. I'm opening contact lists. I have no contacts there. I want to create new person.
Marko Perisic?
No.
Come on.
Better. And here I want to add contact picture. Yeah, it's him.
This is actually our competitor right in the next room.
Yeah.
We got the hardest contest.
Have you seen this notification? Already I get, now we know how old are Waldo. So we just need to add some parameters.
And he is actually male.
Yeah. Yeah. Here I added all the parameters which can be used for this prediction. So he will be.
So after testing, we found out that the parameters which has main impact on the prediction results are basically those.
So we fill the profile, and now we try and get demo person, actions, report, yeah, send request. Waldo getting less than 50,000. I think no, but the probability is less than 50%.
So it's not that much reliable.
Yeah.
So this is a rumor that Waldo gets less than 50,000 USD per year.
Per year.
So actually it depends on your model and the quality of the data in your model, but the main idea is that you can actually quite quickly, very fast, integrate your Business Central with the machine learning capabilities and send the data there and get the results to predict basically anything. It can be your cash flow, it can be your doubtful receivables, it can be your stock items, which would also depend on the seasonalities, or you can actually create more sophisticated models to predict how the sales price would affect your sales volumes, or how, if you would introduce a new item into the item matrix, how the other item sales would react, and so on. And this you can actually done without major customizations right out from the Business Central.
You have everything to start developing, to communicate with Azure services. You have a lot of samples, a lot of examples, test database, everything to start your own experiments.
Okay, so this is what we did. So we created the integration with the machine learning, and we got our results. The next crazy demo that we wanted to show you is the integration with IoT devices. And for this specific purpose, we brought together with us a nice bottle of Merlot, 2015. It's almost empty, but this would be enough for us to demonstrate the functionality we wanted to show you. We have together with us the IoT device, which is actually the Alco tester. It's a small sensor which is attached to Arduino small computer. So the Raspberry Pi or Arduino is the small computers that allow you to
I will try to show you.
Use a variety of devices.
It's already connected.
So this is our Arduino plate.
So it's a controller, and on the top of it we have Ethernet shield to let Arduino communicate with internet. And on these wires we have a gas analyzer, which is basically a detector of alcohol. So now,
and we will actually want to do a demo, for example, to control how drunk is the user. And depending on that, you can implement different scenarios. For example, if he is that much drunk and sends the invoice for approval, then somebody else should actually additionally approve the invoice or something else. So we are just limited by your imagination. You can show how it works.
Yes. For using Arduino, you need to download the Arduino environment. Basically, it's free. And here you will see C++, which we can use. The most complicated part of this demo is to allow your controller to communicate with an internet. So to create it, you need this is Ethernet connector. Here you need to set fixed IP address. I have this one. This is mask. And for your Wi-Fi network, you need to allow it to use Ethernet connection, to let Ethernet connection to use this Wi-Fi network. It's all that you should do. After that, inside the Arduino, you create its MAC address of device. It's an IP address of device which differs on one symbol from IP which you set in the Ethernet. This is gateway, which is basically Ethernet IP, and this is subnet mask. Here is my server, which is also Azure function. So this device will send data to Azure function, and Azure function will send data to the Business Central. This is analog pin, which I want to read from it's a pin of detector A0. And after that, yeah, I'm starting connection. I read data from analog pin, and after that, I send a getted value to the Azure function. Let's see. This is my second Azure function.
And just to let you know, we've been never ever using Arduino before this demonstration. And we had spent about 1 day in total to get this up and running from scratch. So we just purchased a book, Arduino development, and then and we purchased that device and a sensor, and basically it took us approximately 1 day to set up and run this.
And demo. 1 day to set up network.
Well, that's another story.
So I'm trying to find MQ3. MQ3 is the name of gas detector. I'm trying to find MQ3 detector in my request, which is, I pass it here. It's a part of API. And after that, after I'm getting MQ3, I send Arduino message with this value. This is another function. This function sends message with an authorization key to my Business Central API, which I also created for this demo. How it looks. This is monitor of Arduino's serial port.
A kind of health monitor.
Yeah. Trying to refresh it.
It might have issues with the connection in Belgium. Oh, it's connected. And it actually shows you the level of the spirit in the gas that this device is focused on.
Yeah, it successfully sends. The detector shows that current level is 36. This value can differ from 1 to 1024. Now we taken wine and put detector into the bottle. So let's see what will happen. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah.
So the result is a lot higher. And you can put this device to the headset of the user, saying that this is a kind of microphone.
So what we'll see?
It actually looks like a microphone.
show you. Okay, what I have here, I have setup table. Let me show you in the Business Central. MQ3. It's a condition. You can be drunk or not drunk. And this is limit value. After that, you will be drunk or not drunk.
So it actually depends on what you want to allow the user. For example, you might vice versa allow the users to enter your system only if they are enough drunk. Otherwise, they would get angry with the functions that are not working.
So let's check sales orders. Come on. And this is my API, oh no, not API page. It's a page with values. This is values. It's creation date, creation time. Go to top. Yeah. User already not drunk. This is our values when detector was inside the bottle. Yes. So
this is the real-time data that is being acquired directly from the Azure function that is connected to this device. So this device can be actually anywhere, and then it sends the information to the Azure function, and you can get this back inside the Business Central and apply any scenarios that you want. And you can put a variety of sensors. It can be the humidity, the temperature, the noise sensors, and so on. So you can put there in the Business Central.
So you see, I can post orders. Now I put detector into the bottle. Let's check. Yeah, I already get new values. And now I'm trying to post. But it's not all.
We were inspired by Valdo, yes.
So now I'm change the condition that user must be drunk, and I need to wait a little bit while, no, just. Value is decreased. Oh, now they became less than 100. So I'm going back to my orders and trying to post report, post order. You are not drunk. So how it was organized? It's also you just need to create API page. It's a new special type of page, API. It's my caption. You need to have publisher, API group, version, and so on and so far. This API page based on a source table MQ3 data, which just has entry number, MQ3 value. It's a value from detector, creation date, and creation time. That's all that I need. And after that, I'm trying to find, oh, it's code unit. Yeah. The API page has only one field, and we can check it with Postman. It's my API address. You can see it in current field. My company. So it's like basic APIs from Business Central. I send my request to Business Central, and here is all my data, including the last values. So, a second, and then I have enough values. I'm taking the last 5 entries, and if the value in the entry more or less than limit value in MQ3 setup, I'm printing one of 2 messages, depending on conditions. Basically, it's all the integration, minimum code in the Business Central, and also not so many code for the Arduino. All the code for Arduino, basically, it's a connection with API. For reading values, you just need only this string, and that's all. So, and cost of the Arduino controller is maybe
again quite insignificant.
So you can, it's a Lego for big boys.
The next one is really narcotic. We've been trying to teach Business Central now to recognize smells and to provide us sophisticated answers. And we also try to talk to Business Central and implement these scenarios where we can actually control the Business Central using our voice. And we can do this in a kind of nasty way, meaning that we might use the standard Cortana functions, which are built into the operational system. Have you used Cortana services before? Hello, Cortana.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, come on, wake up. Sing me a song.
On top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese, I lost my poor meatball when somebody sneezed.
Okay. But actually, we would use the standard built-in speech recognition. Run speech recognition. I think I have incorrect connection.
Sure thing. Starting speech recognition.
Okay, so what you can do with that, you can actually manipulate your cursor in a standard way and show how you can actually touch the different sides of the screen and push the control buttons and shortcut keys using your voice. So say if I want to post a sales invoice, I can actually stop listening. I can actually switch to the voice recognition. Mouse grid. Oh, come on. Mouse grid. 1. 1. 4, 8 click. So it actually can click the parts of the screen which I want to click. Like mouse grid, 1, 7, 2 click. So this is how I'm getting to the sales order part. Enter. Page down. Page down. Tab. Enter. Escape. Tab. Enter. Okay, let's say I have the sales order and I want to release that. I just know that in the release, here there is a shortcut key which is Ctrl F9. Press Ctrl F9. See, it is actually changes the status to the released one. And if I want to post it, press F9. Okay. Okay. Escape. Tab. Yes. Shortly, this is how you, in theory, can manipulate with the system without any development, but a lot better functionality you can utilize if you would use the so-called Azure speech-to-text service. And this is your homework for today. I want you to try to use the Azure function that would post Dynamics 365 Business Central sales invoice using the data it would receive from Azure speech-to-text service. If you would be able to do this, you can send me the short video of the end result, and we will ship you the Arduino box with the set of sensors, so we can play also with the sensors. So the first 3 would get the Arduino device. So this is a call to action. I have heard that every presentation should be ended with a call to action. So this is your call to action. So as a summary, we want you to avoid customizations as much as possible. And you can see that there is more than 100 Azure services that allow you to set up the things without being a developer. And you can use these Azure services without the customizations. And if the customizations are inevitable, you should use extensions, and then think whether your extension can be created as an app in the app source, so you can publish it in the app source. Any questions? We would appreciate. We still have time. And we have also the handouts of the T-shirts for the questions.
My question is the following. You showed a lot of useful functions already deployed in Azure, but what about pricing? About pricing for this function, and about pricing model, and about how can we estimate which pricing model should be chosen? Number of runs for customer.
Okay, very good question. Actually, for the Azure functions itself, the pricing model is quite cheap. So we can run this function 1 million times per month for free. And then there is a special pricing that depends on the time of the load of the processor and the quantity of the runs. So you can actually calculate quite precisely how much it would cost you to use this Azure function. As for the other services, basically for each service there is an open price list. So we can go to the Microsoft website to the azure.microsoft.com and check the prices for these functions, and they are just there.
When you deploy the app?
Yes, it depends on the count of runs. So it's actually in all the services, it is the pay-as-you-go model. So as you are using the service, you pay some small fee, and if you are not using it, you're not paying.
And for free, you have about 1 million runs.
Yes. Yes.
For when you want to create new function or something like that, you choose pricing model, and pricing model F0, it's for testing, for development, yeah. Okay. You can use it almost by free.
When my customer will use this Azure functions, at which account I save the function? My personally account, the account from a customer, a company account, a customer company account? Where's the right place?
Actually, you have a flexibility. I mean, you might be a third party who creates an interesting function, and you would use your own Azure account for that, and you can provide a service to a variety of customers to use your function. This can be a totally internal customer implementation. So let's say your customer might create the function just for his own, under his own account, and this would be his own internal service. So we can actually have a flexibility and a mixture of different approaches. Because the Azure function is actually a kind of service with API. You just have a link to that to use it and receive a result.
Firstly, for when I developed encryption Azure function, I developed it in my Azure account, and after that I moved it to customer account.
Other questions?
Already.
You mentioned the blob container to save files, but a similar outcome can be achieved with other functions integration.
Absolutely.
So you can save it to OneDrive, for example. Is there a preferable way, one or other, or it depends on this?
It depends on the circumstances quite heavily, because it depends on your infrastructure, it depends on the cost of the service, it depends on what types of files you store, what are the sizes of the files, what is the network bandwidth that you operate with, what is the quality of the connection. So all these parameters, they affect the model. So we are not actually forcing you to use exactly the blob Azure service. This is just an example how flexible Business Central is. The whole demonstration is actually to show you how flexible the system is and what you can do without customizing the system itself and using the Azure.
I think that would be accessing, for example, scaling system to get the weight of some goods the customers are sending out. Would that work best with Azure functions or Arduino, or what would you suggest? Well,
it again depends on the scenario, and if you want to process the data that you receive from the scales somehow, then you can create the Azure function without putting these calculations inside the Business Central. You might equally make a customization with that, but I would actually prefer to have it as an Azure function that would just return a certain result inside the system. Yes?
How do you determine whether to use Logic Apps or Flow as an integration tool?
Good question. Actually, it again depends on the circumstances. To me, Flow itself is not yet that much stable so far. From our experience, it sometimes hangs. Microsoft is putting more efforts to have it more stable, so it gets better and better. Personally, I'm more preferring Microsoft Flow, to be honest. a matter of preferences, perhaps.
What type of performance can you expect from Azure functions? Like, can I call them 100 times per second, or once every 10 seconds?
It again depends on a function itself. I mean, you can create such a function that would never end. I mean, it would just hang and then recursively call itself without the result, and it would eat up all your... So, I mean, if you do the bad development, you can actually end up losing all your Azure account money for the month.
Also, you have Azure Function Monitoring system. You can check how many calls for the period were failed, how many were successful, and a lot of metrics to monitor the API.
But normally
if the function is fast itself?
Yes, normally it is measured in milliseconds. So I mean, the pricing model calculation is based on milliseconds. So you can imagine that it is actually being executed usually quite fast.
So it's fast enough for user interface?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have to actually close this session. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for sacrificing Valdo and Viaco session to our session. You are a great audience, and I hope that you enjoyed our session as well. Enjoy the evening.